I want to ask, all-time favorite movie?
Mine?
I want to tell you why. Yeah.
Oh, Star Wars, dude.
Because?
Because it's like life, man.
Welcome back to the Kris Krohn Show. I am here with Dan Young. Brother man, how are you doing?
Awesome, dude.
Man, you are killing it in an industry right now where like a lot of people have ghosted. Like in the crypto space, I think the market has cooled off the last couple of years, a lot of sentiments, and yet you're out there still working the market, you're still making money, and I'm kind of curious how you're doing that.
Well, the wind is in our favor now because the upcoming Bitcoin halving.
Yeah.
And the big catalyst was the ETF approvals, the 10 big major institutions launching their Bitcoin ETFs. And so now we feel like we've got large-scale adoption coming in right now.
Really, but how are you doing well during the bear market?
The big secret to that is just like real estate, is collecting rents on your crypto. A lot of people buy crypto in hopes that it goes up, which it can go down too, but collecting yield is really the secret.
For those of you that don't know Dan Young is founder of PC Laptops, Ugly Unicorn Crypto Fund. He has multiple year Inc. 500 winning awards. He was on the AMD Gaming Advisory Council, served on the Intel Board of Advisors for 16 years. Fun fact, he built the largest Bitcoin mining facility in Utah in 2014, and he's done more than $700 million in sales and made his Ugly Unicorn Crypto Fund investors a lot of money.
Yeah, we've done well.
Yeah, I mean, you launched that in 2022, 2023. Most would argue your timing was really bad, and yet the returns have been good.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of background on who you are, but I would like to dive deeper because your parents were byproducts of World War II. They fled communist China.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what your upbringing was like.
You know, it's kind of interesting. In our home, my parents didn't let us speak Chinese, and they spelled our last name Y-O-U-N-G, and a lot of people thought that was kind of weird. But my dad was saying, no one should be able to tell your national origin from how you speak. And we're living in America, so you should be able to be the best communicator possible. And that's actually a major advantage. And so it was kind of interesting. In our home, we didn't speak Chinese, and all the food we ate was pretty much American food. A little bit of special treatment.
That almost sounds a little anti-patriotic, and yet they're known for patriotism. Like, is that just some butthurt coming out of an awful World War II situation?
Well, no, it's more about business opportunity, my dad said. He said,
really?
Wherever you live, you need to be able to communicate and work with the people where you live the best.
So it was really about just how to win and succeed, which is ironic because when I see your famous PC crazy laptop commercials, you're always doing something to stand out. It's harebrained, it's crazy. You've got some Thor one with the hammer going on right now, right? I mean, I've seen you do some of the wildest stuff. You've become an excellent communicator and marketer. I mean, you took your dad's advice hard.
Well, the big thing is embracing American culture, right, and understanding that. And this is why you have a lot of these companies from Taiwan and China and that asking me to consult for them, because they can manufacture products and things like that, but they don't understand how to connect that with the American consumer, right? Because it's a completely different market than selling in Asia. Yeah. And I think that's an important skill to have.
I'm guessing there's horrific stories that kind of come with your kind of heritage. What was your upbringing like? What kind of lore did your parents pass on to you from what that transition was like, moving from communistic China?
Well, the big thing was this. So my grandfather was ambassador from China to Japan pre-war, and the government that took over wanted him to be, it's called the puppet government. They wanted him to put their propaganda out there. He refused. And because he refused, they put his brother in a prison in China, and they took all his assets away. So literally they went from having, in today's terms, hundreds of millions of dollars in assets. In fact, to give you an idea, their license plate number in China was 3 on their car, because hardly anyone had a car. They had this big, huge castle. They had 7 servants, 7 maids, 7 bulldogs. That's their lucky number. And from that to 0, to escaping the government. And that's kind of an eye-opener. And my parents talked about how anything can change on a dime with political unrest, anything like that. But the big thing is, I said, Dad, were you discouraged going from such a luxurious life to 0 and being a janitor in California for General Motors.
Jeez.
He said, no, because I have God and I have my family and I have my mind. And if you have those things, then you have an opportunity. And we have America.
Wow, that's amazing. So my father, very similar experience, World War II. You know, he was young. He was 2 years old at the start of the war, 5, 6 at the end. And my grandmother was shot by Russian soldiers, shot in the neck and in the shoulder. She was left for dead, but survived. She was brutally raped. She was dragged off to concentration camp, even though she wasn't Jewish. She fled, escaped, rescued my dad, you know, brought them safely to the West. Actually went to the West just a week and a half before the Berlin Wall came up, and had they been on the wrong side of the fence, would have never been able to. I mean, I don't even think I'd exist.
Wow.
Just a really, really, it's amazing how that time created such a profound history that carries things. Like when you look at the businessman that you are today, what kind of traditions do you think you've carried on from your parents' lore, from their rituals and traditions?
You know, the big thing is doing absolutely your best and learning from your mistakes and not spending so much time with regret. It's all about what action and opportunity do you have now. And one thing I remember my dad and my uncles telling me is, in America, you have the greatest opportunity in the world.
Yeah.
And if you're able-minded and able-bodied, if you're not successful here, you're just not taking advantage of the opportunity, taking action.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting in a buffet.
Yeah.
And there's so many avenues, whether it's real estate or crypto or stocks or tech or anything, construction.
Yeah.
You could do really well and help a lot of people.
Wow. Chinese tradition, they've got some strong labels and generalizations that, you know, their kids can never really be good enough. I think about that one guy on TikTok, emotional damage. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like your parents put a lot of stress and pressure on you to like do something extraordinary with your life, or did you actually feel like there was a lot of pressure?
There's zero pressure. My parents, though, were not super wealthy or anything like that. But I did have an uncle, and he ended up starting a bank. He started as an accountant. He started a bank. And I remember in the 70s, he made $700 million. That was just a lot of money in the 70s.
That was a ton of money in the 70s. That was probably like close to $2 billion.
It was crazy. And he said, Dan, like, everyone has different motivations of what excites you. My dad was an artist, so he loved to create beautiful artwork, right? And, you know, my uncle was into mathematics and numbers and helping people scale their wealth. And so, you know, everyone has a different thing that they like. I like helping other people scale their wealth and create something wonderful for their family that, you know, can be a legacy. So it's exciting.
I want to talk about Dan 2014 prior and Dan post 2014. Because I think you did a lot in the game of business and in technology, you know, a lot in real estate, but 2014 was really kind of your foray into like the crypto world. And I think it's today, people that know you in that space, they're like, oh yeah, Dan's like, dude, I've been down to your shop, man. It like you know that space so well. And I would absolutely consider you an expert in that space that is so confusing to so many people. What were you like kind of pre-2014, and then what got you into crypto?
Crypto was a mistake. We had purchased too many video cards or graphic processing units, NVIDIA, and we were sitting on too much of it. A professor from the University of Utah came in and he said, hey, I want to buy 50 computers to teach this thing about Bitcoin. So they wanted to set up Bitcoin miners. And he gave me a USB key with a script, and the script would find out which crypto paid the most with the least amount of energy consumption. And he goes, have that, do what you want. So I took all this excess inventory we had bought, and I created 4,000 Bitcoin miners.
So when you said you had excess inventory, you meant you had a lot of excess inventory.
Millions of dollars worth of inventory.
What mistake created that for you?
Well, we thought there was going to be a big video card shortage. We've seen those like during COVID and stuff. And so we just overbought. And it turned out the demand wasn't that high, and we were sitting on way too much inventory.
And so you created the largest Bitcoin mining facility, and mining in 2014 was kind of juicy, wasn't it?
Super juicy. Bitcoins cost us $320 to $370 each to get. So it's cheap.
Wow. So, can you break that down? I'm just kind of curious. I know that I'm kind of going back in time here, but 4,000 miners, like, do you know in 2014 or 15 what those were producing a month?
It ended up being pretty lucrative, but the algorithm was actually mining Doge because that was the most profitable token at the time.
Yeah.
And I actually held a lot of Doge as well. Bitcoin ended up taking a big run up into 17. So we mined from 14 to 17, just a few years. And my wife actually convinced me in 17 to sell 75% of our crypto and buy real estate.
Really? And was it a good move?
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We were just ripping deals back in 17.
Wow.
And a lot of deals were just cash because we were just sitting on cash. And I wasn't super great on creative financing and anything like that. We ended up turning them into debt, when the rates got really low because the money was almost free, right? But that was actually, I give credit to my wife for urging me to do that because it wasn't me.
I remember the first time I stepped in a mining facility. It was up at Draper. It was an undisclosed location. Almost had to be blindfolded to go in there. And I'm walking these aisles of all of these miners, and I'm just thinking, okay, this is crazy what's happening here. And actually, the building we're in right now, that I've turned into an event center. We're in the studio portion. Along the entire back wall, I was actually going to put a mining facility in. And so, I mean, it's exciting for those that don't really understand. You have to have these computers that are actually performing the, algorithmic mathematical equations to perform the value for Bitcoin, and you get paid to do it.
Yes.
And
it's just like merchant processing.
Yeah, and there are times when it's been lucrative, and there are times when it's been negative, like not worth the electricity that the machine costs. But you got out of that game, bought a ton of real estate, but you've stayed in crypto ever since. And you're not just doing, hodling as they call it. You're not just buying, kind of the large cap coins and then just saying, well, let's just wait 5 or 10 years. Look, I'm in crypto. No, you're actually in the day to day. You're trading. You're in small and mid cap. Like, talk to me a little bit, because I know all that's culminated 2 years ago into this fund, and you've got some very elite and wealthy and accredited people that are putting money into that. And in a down market the last 2 years, you've been performing really, really well.
Yeah, we treat crypto like real estate in that we like long-term capital gains versus short-term capital gains, if all possible. And we love collecting rents on our crypto. And so how we do that is you have exchanges. We provide the tokens to do the exchange. So for example, if you were to trade Ethereum for Solana, they charge you 1% or whatever their fee is. That's like a processing fee, like a credit card fee. Yeah. That's how we make a lot of our money, is because we provide that liquidity for those exchanges. And the nice thing about that is when you're collecting these rents, if crypto does drop, you've made money to offset that loss, right? And so that helps you buffer corrections. Meanwhile, though, when crypto is going up and demand is really high, we start making crazy yields again. So we have more profit to be able to reinvest into crypto as well. So really, we're long term. We don't do day trading. We're not day traders. We're very long in our outlook.
Yeah, but you're looking for, some might argue, okay, Bitcoin, even though it may be continuing to go up in value, it has the largest adoption, and everyone knows about it. And usually, when something achieves adoption, you don't have 100x and 1000x excitement. You've got maybe 5x. Mm-hmm. You were saying that next month is after 4 years where we've got our next halving. Mm-hmm. And explain just briefly what that means and why, for some people, that might make Bitcoin a little bit exciting.
So right now, with Bitcoin mining, you have about $55 million in Bitcoin a day that can be mined. When the halving happens, the difficulty becomes double. So if they had the same amount of equipment, you would have $27 million worth mined a day. Crazy thing is, with these ETF inflows, we had days where over 500 million, 700 million are going in inflow. So if 500 million to 700 million is going in and only $55 million a day is being mined, you can see the supply and demand, kind of like real estate, right? When the demand's high, it drives prices, right?
Yeah, that's the problem we have right now. We're missing millions of homes, and it's going to take 7, 8, 9, 10 years before we actually work ourselves out of this one. So I think there's going to be, especially below the median, there's going to be consistent climbing and a lot of whining, and there's going to be a lot of people saying this isn't affordable, and yet the market is going to bear it. And eventually we're going to have a big correction, but I don't think you can't have a correction until you eat up all of your inventory that doesn't exist.
And even if you have a correction, if you have long-term real estate plays and you have great cash flow coming through from just renting,
Doesn't even matter.
You're going to be all right. You're going to have a few. We always say in tech, a decade or give or take a little bit of awesomeness, a few years of crappiness, and then a decade of awesomeness. It's just cyclical with most assets.
Yeah.
So we're going into this now with crypto. It's a little bit faster because it's a 4-year cycle, right? Because they're halving. So it's a lot more accelerated, which is great because then you can make money faster or lose money faster.
$700 million in business. How much of that is crypto versus just traditional what you've done in your gaming company or your computer, PC laptops company?
So that excludes real estate transactions and crypto.
Okay.
That's just business, running business.
That's just running business. So you're coming up on $1 billion just in transacting business. That's an impressive number.
Yes.
When you add in something like real estate, it almost feels a little bit like you're cheating because it's like, well, real estate's a big asset, right? I bought this, $200,000 thing and this $2 million thing and this $40 million thing, and you add them up, and it adds up quite a bit.
Real estate to me is like what I call old guy money, and I'm 52 now. So, when I'm retired and really old or something like that, it's nice because, with property managers managing all the properties and stuff, and you have our CFO and different things, it's pretty easy cash flow once you've built the base,
Yeah.
It's just like free money,
Yeah. I don't know if it was a year ago or a year and a half ago, I went to one of your Cars and Coin. This was up in like Park City, this was up kind of in that way. And you were up at this hotel, and everyone was bringing in their Lambos and their fun exotics. And I brought in my 6x6 Jeep with Hellcat engine with a 50 caliber gun mounted to the top of it.
It's a beast.
Totally, and really fun, but not really an exotic car. Just kind of a war car. So much fun to shoot that thing too. Inspired by Halo, just love everything about driving and shooting like that is really kind of fun for me. But you got into exotic cars a little bit ago, and you connected it to this whole crypto kind of space, and you've put on some really cool events. You actually did one here at my
Yeah, your place was right.
So kind of curious, where does the exotic car excitement come from for you?
Really, people sometimes hate on it, but my daily drivers I like are Tesla Plaids. I own 2 of them, and I ordered a Cybertruck and stuff like that. That's good daily commute stuff, because it's great. I look at Lambos and McLarens and all that, kind of like high heels or G-strings. That's kind of inappropriate, but it's only for special occasion, man.
Yeah.
And they're really eye candy and flashy and things like that. And it's just the younger generation really likes those things. It's for social media and for events. At the end of the day, one of our events, I said, hey, raise your hand if you're a billionaire here. And there were 6 guys that raised at our event. And we said, what do you drive? And one of them was like, 6-year-old F-150, 5-year-old Tesla. And I joked that most of the old gray-haired billionaires looking for the chicken wings at the event, they're not really into the car thing.
Dude, most of them seem to be truck drivers.
F-150,
I don't know
F-250,
why, yes.
Super Duty, something, and very boring. Their truck's like white.
Yeah.
Which is great. A lot of the guys that are in that, million to a couple $100 million range love the crazy stuff because you're young and you want the fun stuff, Yeah. So I think it's like an outfit. There's room for all. But the nice thing in the car game is if you buy right on rarity, you're gonna drive most of your cars for free, and with tax implications and stuff, you're gonna do pretty good.
Curious where you're at in the real estate game right now, because
Yes.
you've invested in so many different spaces. What are you hot on right now?
I really, really, really like industrial flex. A lot of my old mentors have billions.
Yeah, break that down. Industrial flex. What do you mean?
So you're talking like a big empty type of Walmart type of situation where you divide it up and you lease it to different companies that have small businesses, or better yet, publicly traded companies.
That reminds me a little bit of your office.
Yeah.
Except I don't even know if you're even leasing any of it out.
We have a plasma processor there.
Okay, but I'm just saying, it's like one big monster building.
Box, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the reason is if you can get tenants that sign a nice 10-year lease with 10-year renewal with escalations every year, your cap rates are good. And managing a tenant that's paying you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 a month is actually less agony than having someone pay you $2,000 a month in rent.
Yeah.
So
you like the scale of it.
Yeah, because those big companies, evicting someone out of a house that has a dog and a family is very saddening and hard versus a big commercial building with a lease and they just ACH you the money every month. It's just no work.
It's professional.
But it takes a lot more money to do that kind of scale, though. So that's why it's hard for people to get into that level. But like I got into it first with like house hacking with a little duplex, when I was like 19 and built from there. Kind of like you, it's like you start there and then you move into bigger projects.
Yeah. I never really moved into bigger projects.
No?
I like my ROI on my single family stuff too much. When I move on to the bigger projects, I haven't been able to scale my ROI as cleanly or as homogeneously as I'd like. And, I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness, but just...
It's a strength if you're the best in your niche, which you're phenomenal, right? So, again, I have a friend who makes porta potties, for concerts.
Yeah.
And he ran it for 5 years. He sold it for $300 million in cash.
Jeez, that's a lot.
And he says, I make crappers and I made $300 million.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter as
But
long
it
as
was
you're great.
it was his space that he operated in that he was mastering.
Yeah, the best.
What do you, 52 years old, and you kind of look at the last now decade that you've been in crypto, when you take a look at the next 30 years, and you're like, okay, like real estate is like some of that old money, be smart, grow it, it's conservative, it's not going to do anything that crypto will. When you take a look at what's going to be really hot, not next year, not the next 5 years, but the next couple of decades, what do you see?
It's crypto, AI, and also crossing in some genetic engineering and sequencing into that. That's going to be a big thing. I believe, though, if you live for the next, 10, 15 years, some of the breakthroughs we see with AI, quantum computing, blockchain, is actually going to extend human life significantly. We may see people living 500 years, something crazy like that. And simply by altering your genetic code, right? And AI will be a big thing with that. And it could be that you could just eat sugar all day and carbs and it doesn't
And never get fat?
spike your insulin or anything.
Yeah, it never does anything?
They just make it so you can instantly metabolize it,
Can you imagine how exciting and devastating all at the same time that would be? Like, well, I don't need discipline anymore. I don't have to like have work ethic. Like, imagine a world where everything just comes to you and it's easy. It's like, I wonder what being a human in that world would look like.
It's going to be like Wall-E, where we just float around.
I don't know, dude. That movie freaked me out.
It could be like that with AI.
My wife would play that movie over and over again because when you have a minivan of young kids, you got to pick the movie that is the most silent or uses the least words because you're going to hear it over and over again. And Wall-E for years was that movie. But when you get to the end of the movie and you have these humans that are just like, man, that's just.
What was your movie, man? What did your parents watch over and over? Make you watch over and over?
I think we watched Land Before Time, like part 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 13, 24. Like,
my parents were Star Wars, Star Trek. That was like the two big ones, and like Rambo and Arnold Schwarzenegger super violent movies.
Yes,
that was it.
I love it. I'm I once was told by someone that I won't tell you. I want to ask, all-time favorite movie.
Mine?
I won't tell you why. Yeah.
Oh, Star Wars, dude.
Because
it's like life, man. You use the Force, the energy within all of us, right?
So what's interesting is that the movies that we like the most are the movies that are a reflection of our own life and like what we like the most.
Yeah.
And so how is Star Wars like your life?
Well, because there's the good and there's evil. There's the light side of the Force and the dark side. You had Darth Vader, But really, Darth Vader inside was a good man. He just went down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about giving people opportunities if they've been bad or good or whatever it is, because you can always choose to go down the path of light.
Wow.
And it's always the harder path to be a Jedi than it is to be a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
But it's much more fulfilling.
Wow. I like that. And when I was asked, I said the movie Aliens. And it's like this badass woman goes up against an impossible species that is bred to destroy you, and it's impossible, and you're not going to live. And yet somehow Ripley does every time. And I'm like, oh, I think that's the way I like to do life.
I love that show.
If I don't have an impossible task, then I feel like I'm like cheating myself and I'm living too small of a life. I know you actually do. I know your daughter's, you showed me some of that beautiful artwork that she made and seen some of the pieces in your office. I feel really connected to that series.
She is shifted though, because she applied to go to the University of Utah, but she wasn't good at like political science and math or something useless, right? So she dropped out and started her entrepreneurial art business.
Are you serious?
But what's crazy is...
Wait, what's her entrepreneurial art business?
It's called or Niagram on Instagram.
And what does she do?
She creates art pieces and digital art and physical art, and just sells these drops. And some of them are 9,000. Some are.
So
a
she
couple
does
hundred.
do that.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was in your office like a year and a half ago, I was like, oh, can she make a piece for me? Like, no, that's not her path in life. That was just a one-off for her father. I'm like, oh.
But let me tell you how it got weird. So during COVID, her business skyrocketed, and she was used to making a couple thousand a month in the first year. And then she ended up having like a $30,000 profit month. And then all the crypto people started commissioning her to do these art pieces, pay her $8,000, $10,000.
yeah.
She was a line of people. She was lined out for 2 years. And I go, what are you going to do with the money? And she says, stocks and crypto and maybe a little real estate. And so she bought stock and crypto. And every day, 3 times a week, we go to the gym together and we review her portfolio. And she said, you know, if I took my average income for the last year, it's been about $800 a day off stocks and crypto profit.
Yeah.
And she's like, I love my art business, but I'm starting to get much more excited about stocks and crypto because it's such a velocity of gains. And it seems like in technology and in blockchain, we're just starting.
How old is she?
23.
So is that kind of cool? Do you feel like a little bit like you and her might have some future projects down the road?
Yeah, well, she got her first real estate project. So since she was little, I put away $300 a month for her in an investment account. And so when she was 18, she got this little chunk. And she put a couple $100,000 down on her first real estate investment. So the place was $750,000, and she just got her appraisal back, $1.3 million.
Wow.
Since COVID.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so real estate is phenomenal.
Did she go to college?
No, she wasn't accepted because she had bad GED, or what do they call it? ACT.
And did you care?
No.
Because
college, I went to college for a bit, and a lot of people don't know I have a graduate degree from Stanford. But college is really just fun to party.
Wait, did you earn this bachelor's or was it given to you?
No, I donated a huge amount, and then
Okay.
And then for a week, we went, us and 50 entrepreneurs who won the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in America, we went and taught the professors.
Yes.
And then you give them money, you teach the professors, they give you a degree.
Wow. Okay, I knew there was a...
I sent it to my mom.
Listen, I have an MBA that kind of came a very similar way to me, so...
They want to say if you're a successful entrepreneur, you went there.
Yeah.
That's why they, So maybe it's Princeton or Harvard next.
Yeah. Maybe.
But no student loans.
But you don't care and you don't value it and you won't put it on your wall.
Well, my daughter said this, Dad, how much would college cost? And I go, I don't know, 25 to 50 grand a year with housing and everything, maybe
Way
more.
more.
And she's like, why don't people put that into equities in crypto? Like if parents were to put, let's say 4-year college degree cost 200 grand, what if they just seeded or helped out and put that in the stocks and crypto? And that money keeps making the money in real estate, It's crazy.
It's interesting. I want to come back to your heritage one more time on this because this just may be a total disconnect, but I think that in general, Chinese, they seem to care a lot about money. True?
A lot, yeah.
Right? Do you think some of that got passed on to you, like the learning how to invest and be wise and smart with your money, etc.?
Yeah, when they say like Happy New Year and stuff, when they say it in Chinese, the translation is "May you make a lot of money" or something. It's part of that because being able to provide for your family and loved ones and help people, that is the ultimate status symbol in Chinese culture. Do you have resources to help people?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just been ingrained.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I remember my dad said, Dan, what do you want to do when you grow up and those things? And I said, well, I want to be able to scale and create things and that. But really, the gauge is not my passion because think about this. At least in my experience, I could do something I was totally not super passionate about.
Yeah.
Like building computers is miserable to me.
But they're really cool looking, I just want to say.
But now I have guys that do them, but building them, so I would cuss my wife is like, dude, why are you yelling when you're building? I'm like, because I hate this. But the income was so good, doing something that wasn't my passion became very awesome, and I actually enjoyed it because you actually had some sort of benefit out of that.
So I want to be really clear. This is actually really important, I think, for some of our listeners. You chose a profession that you didn't enjoy, but then because you found a way to make it lucrative, you found a way to enjoy it.
I schedule daily an hour or two of doing what I hate so I can have what I love and I can do anything I want.
That's a very interesting
Do
mindset.
what you hate so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And there's a certain amount of that trade-off. Do you think that builds character?
Yeah, but doing hard things builds character in general, like working out, eating right, or whatever. I mean, it kind of sucks, like, until you see the results, and then you feel good about it, right?
And then you feel good about it.
Yeah, but everybody nowadays is being indoctrinated with just do what you love, do whatever you want, have no pain, have no discipline.
Yeah, Kiyosaki speaks out against that. He's like, dude, if you want to be a failure in life, do what you love. If what you love doesn't have the right kind of payoff, then you better hope that the joy and the fulfillment alone is enough. Yeah. And he argues that it's not. He says you should be aware of your passions.
One of my daughter's friends, she went and got a 4-year degree at college. She got all the student debt and all this stuff. And I asked her, well, what is your major? She says, entrepreneurship and business. I'm like, well, what if you just, and then in the beginning I said, just spend the time being an entrepreneur and start something.
Right, yeah, just to actually learn by doing.
Now she's looking for a job and can't find anything.
Oh no.
And she's got like $250,000 in high interest debt. I'm like, that sucks.
You know, it's really weird. Like, so many people ask her, like, is there a college to go to that specializes in entrepreneurship? And I'm like, yeah, it's the business that you start. There's this really funny meme. There's this, it's kind of going around the internet right now. There's this like little, like, I don't know, he looks like a 4-year-old kid. He's holding this basically like a rubber band or something, puts it right on his crotch, and he pulls it back and he snaps. And he's like, oh, that hurts. And the caption says what owning a business feels like.
But my question is, how can somebody who isn't making millions of dollars a year teach you how to make millions of dollars a year?
I don't understand that.
That's
myself.
like having a personal trainer is like 800 pounds.
No,
like,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Ooh, we could get started on that one. We could get started, but
Crazy.
I'd say a lot of things that I'll regret later.
Okay.
So, speaking of that, as we kind of wrap things up here, speaking to the entrepreneurs, there's a lot of W-2ers and 1099ers that are listening that are aspiring entrepreneurs, and then I have a ton of entrepreneurs that follow me. Where we're at in the market today, what advice would you give them?
I would say that AI is going to eliminate a lot of jobs. And really, if you want to have relevancy, the number one skill you can build is read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
And that's an ancient book, right? Yeah. It's simply just...
It's what your dad told you almost.
Yeah.
The ability to connect and communicate.
Help find problems, be able to solve problems, and have influence and be able to sell. And to sell is not usually to be hardcore and force people into somebody. To sell is to find a problem, have a solution, and they feel good about giving you money to solve their problem.
Yeah.
You know, and that's good because it's a reciprocal win, and people feel good that you're making money. They shouldn't feel bad. Like if I make a lot of money, our investors feel good about it.
Yes.
Because they made a lot too.
Yes.
And that's okay.
It is okay.
Now, if I lose the money and then I'm buying Lambos, then that's
a bad
bad.
look.
Don't do
bad
that.
Look.
You know? It's simple.
Dan, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your
Kris.
wisdom, and thank you for your life lessons, and thank you for the good that you're doing in the world. It's super appreciated. If people want to learn more about you, where do they go?
Instagram, Dan's Millionaire Code. Make sure that it has a blue check because there's like 5 million fake Dans at a...
And if they want to learn more about your Ugly Unicorn Fund?
uglyunicorn.com.
Okay, awesome. Dan, thanks for being here today. Everybody, thank you for joining us on the Kris Krohn Show, and we will see you next episode.